Hello and welcome to the OG Creators Podcast, episode 9. I'm here with my very good friend Mickey. Say hello, Mickey.
Yo, hello.
We have a very exciting episode today. I'm joined by the founder and editor of CYBR magazine, James Joseph. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. I'm excited to get into this. We'll talk a little bit about, you are a futurist as well, are you not? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and, what you do on the magazine and your futurism?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that I do tell people is the reason why I started CYBR, and it was because I used to go to parties and talk about how electric cars were going to take over cities and you wouldn't be able to get into a car unless it was autonomous in the next 3 years. And people looked at me rather blankly. And then maybe I'd talk about nuclear energy or some crazy thing that would happen, like fusion, when we invent that. And people got bored of me, and I just thought, I'm really boring at parties. So I thought I'd better start a magazine so we can actually talk about these things and I can get more interesting at parties again. Didn't work because all I do is now double down on that stuff, but never mind. But yeah, CYBR magazine is a futurist magazine. Been around a couple of years, and we talk about all sorts of things, from like nuclear energy to space stations to the metaverse to NFTs. Anything that's like far off in the future or is helping us get there is the idea. And then also the whole magazine is augmented reality. So like it's a physical magazine, but there's certain pages and the covers all augment when you scan them with a phone. So kind of, it's like the magazine of the future, imagine it like that. And then obviously we've kind of moved into the metaverse and the NFT world. So now I think we're the world's first magazine to produce, like, sell a magazine as an NFT. Like, some did covers and things, but we actually have like a full 3D model, every single page in it as an NFT and things. So maybe that's a decent intro, hopefully.
Yeah, so I was looking at that today about the whole NFT side of them. So obviously you can buy the magazine from your website, but also, so where would you buy the magazine as an NFT?
So we're on Rarible at the moment, that's where we sell. But yeah, so basically it's split up. Like, obviously you can buy the magazine as a physical on the website, as you said, but the only way you can subscribe to the magazine, we do not do subscriptions. We only do NFT subscriptions. So like I hated the whole subscription model thing. It's like a lot of work. It's kind of boring when you subscribe to a magazine. You've seen those kind of websites. It's pretty tacky and horrible. So we thought this is the best way to do it, right? Like, you've got this NFT in your wallet and we can validate that and we can kind of take care of our community and readers and stuff that way. So that was our, like, you can't subscribe any other way than getting our NFT from Rebel. Although they are all sold out right now. Because we did a small Genesis thing, but we've got this big thing launching soon, which I can't kind of give too much away, but it's kind of revolutionizes what we're doing with the magazine NFT.
So you are the editor, right? So each month, how do you come up with what's going to go in it, and what do you is that based on your musings that month? Like,
it kind of is. It's like what I feel excited about. I mean, each issue we build kind of like a theme or like a world around each issue. So we had, the last one was Off-World, which was, we imagined the space station in 2021. Sorry, 2121. That would be now, in 100 years' time. And kind of what would happen is, we kind of imagined the fact that, like, you wouldn't send a Jeff Koons sculpture or a Mona Lisa up to a space station. It'd all be digital art. It'll be NFT art. We're saying that, like, algae caviar was superfood at the moment. Everyone's wearing digital fashion outfits because obviously the materials, you can't really get them in a space station and that kind of stuff. So we kind of imagine something that, like, a world that we're excited about, and then we pull everything in from there and kind of explore the ideas. Our next one that's just about to come out is Earth 2070, and that's the climate change. So I was getting pretty concerned about climate change, so we decided to do that this time.
Yeah. So we basically both heard you do a talk the other day, and a big part of that was you were talking about the edition where you have this virtual space station and everything that goes in it. And kind of what I found really interesting about that was that at first you're like, there's these people talking about something that seems so, like, far in the future, and it's kind of hard to grasp at first. But then you kind of realize, like, the moment that dam breaks, like the moment the right technology comes out, the right headset, the right platform for that, like, you're there at the start. Do you know what I mean? You're there at the forefront, and it's going to be like an overnight change. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm like so with you, Will, on that. I think what's happening is that you've got this very small group, and I think it is a very small group of people that are working on I mean, you were saying about overnight change, but I'm kind of thinking you were talking about metaverse there. So like with the metaverse and NFTs, like it is quite small, right? There's 300,000 wallets on OpenSea. I mean, there'll be more people that don't use OpenSea. So let's just argue there's 500,000 people that buy NFTs for argument's sake. It's tiny. Someone did the maths the other day. It's 0.006% of the internet own an NFT. It's crazy, right? So it's not overnight, right? There's people like yourselves, us, like bigger players in the space that are doing everything, and everyone's building it. Everyone's making this new world. But I think to the people that have kind of dismissed NFTs or haven't bothered to, the standard dismissals and then not explored it, I think they'll wake up in, I legitimately believe 4 years time, and it'll be mass. Yeah. It'll be mass like market. AR will be huge mass market, and it will just feel like overnight to them.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely there's technological shifts happening in terms of the NFTs, and I guess the technologies are building up, the foundation, the platforms are building up for NFTs in general. But in terms of kind of wearables and virtual wearables, like their application at the moment is kind of limited to phones, and with the AR as well, you're limited to phones. And I think the kind of massive shift that I'm talking about, the kind of overnight shift, would be the kind of Google Glass, the next headset that's around the corner, which will take it from like phone AR to every day. Like, you're going to need things to be in that world. If everyone is suddenly in that world, you're going to need things to put in it. You're going to. Yeah.
And it's crazy that everything that people are building now can be in that world then, because everything's made for that. Like, I talk about this like a lot, but everyone's building for 2024, like if that's the year, because the 3D models will work in any, like whether it's glasses or phones or whatever. So I think it's so exciting right now that we can just see all this stuff being built. But I truly believe that Apple will win, and it'll be 2024. I think Facebook will not win. Sorry.
So you think Apple's going to be the ones to do the glasses?
Snap are doing an amazing job. What they've got right now is that's what I'm expecting in 2024. I don't know if you've seen the Snap game, like the skateboarder, where he's wearing the Snap spectacles and there's coins, like as in Mario, and there's a little finish line, and he's on a skateboard and he's going in and out of cones collecting coins. So in AR, but in real life. And then he goes to the finish line and it finishes the game. Like, that's incredible spatial. That's incredible. So they did a great job, but I just don't think they have the power to
So what are the main? So I'm a little bit out of that. Like, I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen these headsets. So what are the main ones that you're excited about at the moment? So you got Snap. Did you say? I haven't even seen
it's a Snap spectacle, the new one that no one can buy because it's just for really in the loop metaverse people like Artifact, right? Mm-hmm. They've got a pair, but it's really cool, like that kind of stuff where you're basically playing real life video games in reality on top. It's crazy. They've done a good job. And then obviously Facebook's interesting, right? Like, I've got an Oculus. I love VR, but I don't know. I feel like they're always going to miss the boat. I mean, they're trying to build out Horizons as a metaverse. I've used it a little bit, but I'm not that into it. And then Apple, I just think Apple always do this thing where they never invent anything. They're never the first. They always just come in last, but with it best produced and market it the best. That's what they're good at, marketing. So I feel like Snap all day can be the greatest technological advancement there, and then Apple will just take it and market it better. And then, but we need that. We need it to be marketed really well, because I think that people will need to be convinced.
So, I mean, that's interesting. So, I mean, we're talking about quite big kind of tech firms that are essentially kind of racing to be in control of this new land, this new promised land, the metaverse. I mean, in terms of some of the adaptability, we were talking about digital passion. Being able to take it from one place to another, there would have to be kind of a consistent world. So there have to be a consistent universe, and it would work in something like Facebook metaverse, an Apple metaverse, or somewhere where there's huge teams of people behind it, consistently building it. There's loads of users with the same technology, the same phone, the same glasses, etc. But in terms of a decentralized one, which is what I think people are trying to kind of create, where do you see kind of the future now? Are they going to coexist, or do you think which one's going to take over?
It's really tough, right? Don't you think? I think it's really difficult. It's a bit like cryptocurrency and CBDCs. Like, you've got these two factions. You've got cryptocurrency, the whole decentralized system, the best thing. It's incredible, and then governments being like, let's not allow that to happen. That's going to ruin us. So they're like, yeah, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, they're amazing. And like, you've got these two factions of something that was invented to be decentralized, and then something that is like someone who's always been centralized trying to stop it. And it's interesting. Like, I think it was at the event that we were at in Manchester for Known Origin, but like, I spoke to a guy, and I was like, oh man, like Facebook are gonna they're just going to create this thing. And he was like, we have to stop them because we don't want those powers being in control of the new internet. We need to be those people that create the new internet. And I'm in a huge like open source agreement with that. But it's difficult, right? Like, who's going to do that? I mean, I was joking the other day to someone that Epic Games, like, wouldn't it be cool if they'd secretly were building hardware, and then one day they were just like, oh yeah, by the way, here's some AR glasses we've been making? Because Epic, like, doing that would be amazing, right? They're so well more in the space, and they have that better ideology about decentralized things. But it's really difficult, isn't it? And I think I'm hoping that what will happen is you'll have major metaverses, but someone will come up with, and at the moment I'm asking for kind of like a wallet for this to happen, in a way where someone will come with an NFT wallet that can be cross-platform, cross everything, cross like it's like Polygon, it's Tezos, it's ETH, like across the three, and you can move around. But that's like, it's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Really.
I mean, that's so interesting and scary at the same time. I mean, because it's not going to be in the same way that the internet was somewhat, anyone can make a website and all that stuff. It is going to come down to the marketplace, the tech. Not everyone can make the tech. And so, I mean, it's almost like, do you think it might even divide society in terms of you're either a Facebook or an Apple user, and you aren't...
If you're not in the same metaverse, if you don't experience... I mean, we're already kind of in little social bubbles already, but then this could kind of go further in a bigger divide where, if people are spending more and more time in a metaverse, in an augmented reality or virtual reality environment, fully encompassed in there. If they're not cross compatible, then you will have some sort of division. I mean, but then the other side, to have a universal file type or kind of thing that is open source and is able for everyone to kind of like work.
But you have to say, why would they do that?
Well, that is a good question.
Because if you can create your closed garden and everyone has to be tied to your marketplace and all that, why they have no real incentive to do that.
No. It comes back to that whole like megacorp thing, right? Like from William Gibson novels and things, and it's like it's scary, right? Like Amazon's main goal is to have a percentage of every single economic activity on the planet. So like payment processor, every time you pay for something, they take a cut. Like that's the kind of goal. And it's really scary. Like we are dealing with megacorps. Like Amazon is a megacorp in a sense, and Facebook's kind of there. Like when Facebook went down the other day, like that's crazy. That pretty much all communication that people are used to died.
Yeah.
Like even Oculus didn't work. So it was like you couldn't log into the metaverse, and I mean, it's not, but you know what I mean? Like I couldn't log into my little house and the little startup thing in Oculus, right? Because I can't log in. And then no one could talk to each other unless you had Signal. Or used SMS messaging. It's like, it's crazy. So we have to it shows why decentralization is so important. because you can't have a situation where someone has like walled garden because you can take it offline, especially when you get into like, you know, some of the reasons why ETH was actually developed in the first place, why Ethereum was there in the first place, was because they were trying to help people in Syria who, you know, who are oppressed. And when you start getting into that, like you look at the Egyptian riots, and you look at the internet. Have you seen the internet traffic graph? Because it's really high, and then it just drops to zero when they turn the internet off. Whatever year that was, it was like 5 years ago, right? It's crazy. And like, you know, like iHeart Comics, I think, they were trying to get internet to people and trying to build like small internet ports so they could kind of get people to be able to get the message out and stuff. So yeah, decentralization is super important. That's why I'm kind of hoping that we'll have many metaverses from many people and we'll be able to cross them. But yeah, it's like the $10 billion question, right? Like that's the scary future. Can we change the traditional? Can CB like cryptocurrency win against CBDCs and things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, is this kind of, so in terms of the stuff that you guys focus on in your magazine, you definitely kind of like mentioned and raised these topics in one of your previous issues with Lizzie Wizzy from Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Who was played by Grimes. Was just talking about that. Essentially, it's inevitable, right? This kind of future, that it's the avatars being able to have a cross avatar project is going to happen. So in that sense, people are racing, and already they're working towards it now. And so we already have that. I guess the lure will be with people who. It's like one of the things. It's like if we have to switch to another model where the old systems relied on the kind of classic Google advertising model, right? And that's what everyone copied, and everything relied on that. We accepted a free internet in exchange for ads, okay? And that's what we got. YouTube.
In return for data sharing.
Yeah, in return, selling our
in return for giving all your data away.
Absolutely. But that was the trade-off. It's like you can have it for free, but we're going to sell all your data. You're the product, and you're the thing. And what else do you have to? So the side effect of that is ads. The whole advertising industry. You going to like a decentralized model, and things like NFTs where people can like pay and they have collectibles. What I'm getting at is essentially like how is the new metaverse going to differ from the current one if it is decentralized and it isn't run by Facebook and all these people? Where does the money come from? Where is all of that going to be?
So I can give you a utopian ideology of it. Okay. Whether that's ever going to happen, I don't know. But literally, like, oh god, I can't remember how many years ago this was. Yeah, but like maybe it was like 3 or 4 years ago. Like when I really started getting into like MetaMask, and I kind of like, it was before like NFTs were a thing or whatever. And I was like going to websites just on my thing, and my MetaMask is there. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, surely we could take tiny transactions instead of having adverts. So like I visit the New York Times, and then my MetaMask pops up and says, hey, you need to sign to say that you're going to give them 2 pence for visiting their website today. And then you just have this decentralized world of complete microtransactions. So instead of ads, instead of things like that, you're just paying as you get it. And then actually what happens is you start paying the creators and not massive middlemen. So you go to an artist or a musician, etc., and they can take tiny transactions from you instead of Spotify taking a huge chunk and then like distributing it through a label.
Well,
I was going to say that crazy, right?
Yeah, interesting.
That's kind of like turning the whole internet into a Spotify, like, or a Netflix. It's like the whole internet. So you're going to pay
without all the middlemen, without all the.
Well, do you advocate a monthly fee for? Would you like a monthly fee for the internet, and then that gets divvied up amongst all the creators? So.
But I think as long as it's microtransactions per thing, it works, right? Like if you're doing a monthly fee, it doesn't work. But if you're like going to visit sites and they take tiny transactions per thing, then it starts to work because it actually goes to the right people.
So yeah, it's assuming so that you get rid of all the adverts. And if you're doing anything, if you're writing a blog, if you're a journalist, you don't even have to work for a newspaper. If you're a good journalist, for example, like just by reading your content, I'm giving you microtransactions, of per page.
But that seems so scary to me. Like, I don't like that idea because every time you refresh, you're going to pay another 2p. It's like you need to have the monthly fee. It's like a way for you to manage that. Do you know what I mean? Because you're doing it. You're like putting £1 in the gas.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, you're
just talking about like technology. As soon as it gets better, I can imagine the kind of stuff we're talking about with augmented. It's kind of scary at the same time. The amount of data they can reap from these things, but the augmented reality glasses, you can tell with eye tracking and movements how long you're reading something for when you finish. It's precisely Instagram already does that. It already like counts to the millisecond how long you stare at an image for. So then it kind of like uses all of that processing and data so that it kind of works out this model. So it's just the case. So this technology that's looming is it's also, as much as it can kind of change, so like Web 3.0 that we're talking about, when we do introduce the glasses and they become absolutely, we're fighting to build that kind of metaverse of things, whether it's decentralized, centralized. However, the technology it's way more invasive, way more leans towards the original argument of paid like by advertisers, paid by data mining. Like, do you get what
I mean, it depends because it is so Will's got a good point in the fact that obviously you have to be careful if this was going to be the model, because you are then creating a rich-poor divide, because obviously if you don't have access to funds and then you suddenly can't read the New York Times, then you're being removed of education, which is bad. So like there's all that there. But then with what you're saying as well, like it's interesting because we have... It's weird, isn't it? The crypto world is anonymous yet completely transparent. So, like, I don't know how this would work, obviously, in terms of the engineering side of it. But if it was there, like, does it mean that wouldn't obviously run on ETH, or maybe it would, but like, you go on Etherscan and you can see the transactions from every single person. Like, oh, this person's paid the New York Times 5 times, and this porn site, and this and that, and then that's horrendous, right?
Yeah.
But then also it's not tied to anyone, so maybe not. But then it is because of people being able to know who they are through ownership. So there's a whole lot of stuff to work out, but it's obvious that decentralization wins against centralization. It's a good example, like China's crazy, right? Like with China banning Bitcoin for the 9th time because they love to ban it every year just to drum it in. I genuinely think the only reason they're doing it is so that everyone has to use that, because they've got their digital currency running. They've got their CBDC digital currency running, and like it's tested, it's working, they're running it, and they're trying to push it out to certain things. And China has this crazy like infrastructure program, which I hope like maybe people know about, but they literally loan countries money at a huge interest rate to build roads, to build like tunnels, to whatever they need, so that they kind of start owning the world. Like it's almost like they own half of Africa because they're like building shit in Africa. And it's quite a smart move if you want to like own the world without invading it. And I genuinely feel that's what they're doing with Digital One as well, which is like, if we can get rid of cryptocurrency and then everyone has to use Digital One, then we'll win. Because if people in America, like imagine in some weird apocalyptic world where the USA dollar dies and then they don't have a crypto CBDC, so everyone has to use Digital One, and then suddenly China's like, I mean, it's the superpower already, but like it's the mega, that's crazy. So it's better than the other option. I feel like we just need incredibly smart people working on decentralized metaverses now, and hopefully we can kind of
but
that's not going to happen though. I can't
well,
see
the
that.
Digital One thing, that's scary, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, so is everyone making their own digital currency at the moment?
I think there's definitely a lot of so the UK are testing their own at the moment. I think they named it Bitcoin, which is literally the worst thing I've ever heard.
Bitcoin.
It's like typical UK.
Well, you've got half the nation buying some,
yeah, right. USA are definitely looking into it and trying to work out what they're doing there, but they are quite far behind. Obviously, China's really, really far ahead, but China's always been far ahead because they've never used plastic ever. So it's gone from, they went from like cash to phone payments. They went from that to Alipay. And then, in like during the pandemic, they used to be able to block people from getting on public transport because everything's done through their phone on Alipay. Right. They'd literally get to a tube station and their phone wouldn't work because they're infected. So they wouldn't be able to, that's how they managed to lock the country down so well. That's crazy and very dystopian, but it's what happened. So I think, it's the way that that's how they managed to leapfrog it and get forwards. But yeah, we have to kind of really look at this as we go forwards because it's going to accelerate so fast, right? You guys know this. It's I feel like 10 years is really time frame. Yeah. Yeah.
It is going to go quicker than you think. I mean, when you were just talking about that, I love the fact that people sort of think that cryptocurrencies are, where the seedy people go and the dirty scammers and all that stuff. It's like fiat has been used for a long time for drug deals and all kinds of shady shit, and is in no way traceable. In a lot of cases, if you're using cash, it's like this kind of idea. So it kind of makes sense that governments are going to want to do their own digital currency because ultimately, it's a lot easier for them to trace every single transaction down the line, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Edward Snowden's written a huge blog post on CBDCs as well. He's obviously with the privacy implications of that, and also being able to track what they spend, because then they'll know exactly what you're spending. The government will know exactly what you're spending. So then it gets into crazy. They can really start to or if you send money to someone's wallet who is connected to somebody they don't like, and But this is getting really dark. Let's go.
No, I'm loving it.
I was actually going to go back to the rich-poor divide on that one, actually, because talking China actually being able to be kind of own the world through without actually having to occupy or go territorial in it. It's through this debt mechanism of having something, have it now, have it for free, and pay me later. And that's partly what the internet has been so far. It's that exchange that we've done, and companies like Facebook and Apple are in a position to do that. Facebook already wanted to. Did Mark Zuckerberg already have a campaign to deliver free internet or mobile phones in loads of countries in Africa? And basically it's there's an appeal to that if they can get connected and do that. And then the other version is we're saying through microtransactions or different kind of ways, or a decentralized one. Who's going to make, if everyone in the world of AR glasses, for example, and that's the way to be connected, is the decentralized web just going to remain on monitors and old school PCs, and are we going to have just a different set of technology that it's who's going to make the gear basically for the D web? It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for a very long time, and by then it's almost too late. It's already, everyone's going to be hooked on to the one that's there already.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? It's it's kind of like Ready Player One is the manual, but it's also the do not do this book. It's that's kind of what you're talking about.
It's 1984, that's the manual and do not do this book, but it seems to have been used,
it's been used heavily
already. It's that's a great idea. We should do that.
I think the only realistic way is that one company is going to win. The technology will get so prevalent that then people will start saying, hang about, they've got too much power, we need to decentralize this. I don't think you're ever going to get that, to happen before. It's it takes that corporate greed to spread it, to get the headsets to everybody, to get the content. Because it's always driven by money. People are going to only want to make things because they can make money out of it. And The only way I see it realistically working is selling hats and selling plant pots for your house for £2, and
but I mean that's what they do.
You also
already.
get to make a page for free. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah,
it's Fortnite, right?
Yeah.
Like Fortnite is the earliest metaverse out there, and they don't make any money off the game. It's just on hats, like you just said.
Yeah.
They make billions of pounds a year on skins, and that's like it's great. Like that. It's just like anyone who doesn't get metaverse NFTs, just look at Fortnite. Also look at like an 11-year-old playing Fortnite, because it's very different. And it just explains it, and explains how like monetarily it's going to work, I think.
What do you think's the future of that kind of thing? Like, play to earn and transferring like your goods and harvesting, being able to take your characters like from Fortnite, or even being able to like sell them or just make a living off it.
I mean, I think like it's happening right now, right? Like it's crazy that the NFT world and the NFT community has managed to give people a living, and even like livings that are people's wildest dreams sometimes. And that's now. Imagine what it would be like in 10, if not 50 years time. I mean, like one of my favorite artists, like MGXS, he worked for a big ad studio, and that's how he was making his life. And then he started selling he's an incredible digital artist, and he's incredible system. Like he's built like a generative system for his art and things. It's incredible. Took him like 3 years to build it. And then now he's selling NFTs, which enabled him to buy like a CryptoPunk and other things. And then like he bought that when it was not the prices they are right now. And it's just enabled him to have complete freedom. I mean, he's a story that I know, but there are many stories like that, right? So I think it's funny because I've been talking about this recently with like fashion, where the big fashion brands are trying to come into the metaverse space, and they are doing it completely wrong with all their old values, like traditional values, because as Benoit from Artifact would say, like they have this like consumerist ideology, like you must consume. Whereas like everyone, our community, right? No one, it's the opposite. There's like free airdrops, community. If you own this, then we'll gift you this. If you own this, then you get like unlock this. Like that. It's all about ownership of a club, like community. And I think that the big brands and the old, like, it's weird because we're now starting to talk about like capitalism, right? But that kind of ideology doesn't fit the new space. So I'm hoping that new space that will go forwards by building from within, and you never know. Like, so I'm going to go on for a bit now, but like I'm going to reference Star Trek. Is that allowed? I feel that's not
please,
good.
Please do. We're both fans.
But like, I've always like, if you look at the Star Trek like universe, people don't earn money, right? They like people go on to the Federation starships to experience new experiences and gain knowledge and stuff like similar. That's really where, if you start really thinking about what humans will become in 20,000 years, 50,000 years, like a million years, if we exist that far, we're not going to look like this. We're not going to be made of gushy bio stuff. That's a terrible idea. And I think like the more we become like conscious in that way, the more that things like money just seems ridiculous. So I think like if you really start looking, I mean, we talk about the type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations. I don't know how much people know about where the stages are, but type 1 civilization is supposed to be reasonably basic, and humans aren't even there. Like we're 0.7 at like best. And it actually goes all the way to like type 5 civilizations. So when you start thinking in that regard, like money's quite a bad idea. It's just like the best we've got right now. Right? So like I think like when you start thinking about that, like the Star Trek idea or whatever, like yeah, okay, so the money thing's a thing right now, but like if we're trying to bootload something in the future that's better, then we have to like move it away from consumerism.
Yeah, I really hope that obviously the younger generation are starting to see that, and I think they are. They're starting to see the corporate greed and kind of what's happening. Like I was saying to me, I watched Inside Job again the other day, and I was saying, like, just trying to contemplate the level of, like, for want of a better word, fuckery of the human race that the bankers did to people. Right? It's like trying to contemplate how many stars there are in the universe. Like you can't do it, and it takes you have to rewatch these documentaries to go, what the fuck? And you just watch it like with your jaw open, going, they literally made laws that meant that they would make more money off the suffering of people. Do you know what I mean? And I'm arguing over roast dinner with my mum about whether the government's doing all they can to help it. And it's like, what are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like the disparity between that is so epic. And I just hope that, like, this new generation, there will be some kind of shift there where they see, that it fundamentally isn't working for most people.
Yeah, I think you're so right. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I think it's really, I feel like I'm privileged for being being able to be a futurist and being able to investigate, research, think about these things. And it's my job. So I have time to, because that is what I do. Whereas, like, it's very hard for people to kind of be able to like get to this point of thinking like about this down the line and how they're being treated right now, because you've got to like survive, right? And it's difficult. And I think it's quite prevalent in the United Kingdom at the moment, so it's quite easy to show it. I mean, I've been super surprised about the whole nationalism front from the whole world. Like, so I genuinely used to say that I was waiting for aliens to come. Like, I was like, right, when aliens come, and they need to fucking hurry up, but they'll come, then it will be great, because all the human race, what they'll do is they'll unite, because there'll be something else. Unfortunately, they'll unite in a really terrible way because they want to kill the new thing, but at least they're going to unite and not hate each other and not be like idiots. Have you ever seen the Rick and Morty like snake episode?
Yeah.
I think I probably have,
where like basically they start taking the mick out of this race of snakes because they all fight each other because they're all different colours and different patterns. And it's like, oh yeah, right, okay. But the problem is like that the aliens came in a way like COVID came. And instead of
I was just going to say that
exactly right. So it
has arrived. Yeah.
But like, well, no one takes notice of that. It's crazy. But the COVID is like, it came and we thought, this will be it. We'll unite. And everyone went, right, put up borders, don't share vaccines across borders, make sure we make our own vaccine, don't give it away to other people. It's mad. So yeah, I think Gen Z and then Gen A like really see this. Like there's passion to change it. So hopefully we can move forwards with the metaverse. But
I mean, we are getting quite dark now. But like the whole Brexit and the whole Trump situation, and there's like there are young people in those groups, and so I mean, I do have faith that in general the youth will prevail, and the youth seem to be smarter. But then currently we've still got some huge factions to try and deal with at the moment. Like I assumed by this age the world would be almost sorted, like in a way.
If only. Where's our flying cars?
Feels like it's getting worse in a way. I feel like there's a massive, but then before any big changes, there seems to be tension points. But people more and more seem to be kind of split on opinion, very much down the middle. Politics seems to be down the middle. We seem to kind of, a new thing comes out, people hate it. Will was just defending NFTs the other day because there's a whole kind of big kind of campaign against that.
I saw that.
I'm really worried. I'm really worried about my like security. I'm starting to drop this video on like every NFT hater, and then I'm like, oh my.
So wait, I saw your tweet. What was this video?
Oh yeah, so I did. It was on our podcast, like the last episode of the podcast. Like I got really passionate about. It's kind of what we were saying just now, that there's a massive liberation of all these artists and stuff like that. And as with any kind of new platform, as with the internet, as with anything, there's always going to be scammers. There's always going to be people. There's always going to be bad areas, bad sectors of these particular new worlds, as there will be with the metaverse and stuff like that. And a lot of people are just blanket hate on NFTs. And it's kind of it's cutting me deep personally, because I feel like you're ignoring all the liberation of all these artists, and you're not trying to make a better world, a better way for NFTs. You're just trying to, I don't know, just shit on it. Basically, you're not. You know what I mean? It's like there's good and bad to everything, and
I think
it seems to come down to a fear of technology ultimately.
Yeah, but it's also the media. Because I find what happens is that journalists I remember when like NFTs really started to gain popularity, and there was a lot of articles about it. And it was like, you'd read articles and like, that journalist has never bought an NFT, has never minted an NFT, has never been on an NFT platform. Yeah, they're bad, they're terrible. This is bad about them. This is bad about them. And it's like, that's the problem. And I think the media is not really helping that. But it's exactly what you've said. Like, I think the biggest one to me is the environmental part of it, which I agree is super bad in some respects at the moment. But like, you've got 3, 4, 5 decent blockchains and platforms that are environmentally friendly. I mean, like Polygon is a really good example in terms of digital fashion and like metaverse, like NFTs and things. Like, you can airdrop 20,000 hoodies for Decentraland on Polygon, and it's like basically zero. But what's really annoying to me is that I find that this weird, like, people kind of take on technological innovation. Like, the monarchy of Great Britain were taking on Elon Musk the other day about space rocket flights. Like, oh, so terrible. It's like, guys, you're the only people in the United Kingdom that you've literally got your lawyers to sign an agreement to make you the only people in Scotland landowners in Scotland that don't have to adhere to climate change rules. And then you're having to go Elon over here, who's literally the most environmental man on the planet, because he's literally, like, every single one of his companies is trying to save the planet. It's mad. And I think with like the NFT things, like, it's this new innovation. And as soon as, like, I mean, everything's mainly based on Ethereum right now, right? As soon as it goes to proof of stake, vanishes. The whole argument is mute. Like, as soon as it goes to proof of stake, it's more efficient than Visa or MasterCard. And it's crazy that people just don't give like innovation time. Like, I reckon maybe we're looking at ETH to be 12 months situation where it goes proof of stake. And it's all over then. Then no one can.
Is that does anyone know what's happening with Ethereum too? It seems like that's been going for like a year and a half.
I mean, if you see it, did anyone see the Greece image from Greece where they've done it? So there's an image, like, people managed to like detect, like internet detectives, that it's from Greece because there's like Greek water bottles in the picture. But they ran ETH 2.0 proof of stake as a test, like in an enclosed environment, and it looks like people reckon it worked, etc. So they've obviously been doing the behind the scenes work and they've been working hard on it. It's obviously just hard to take a plane that's flying through the air and take the engine out and put a new engine in while it's flying. Like that, I get that that's really difficult. But I really believe that's 12 months. I think, I suppose I'm a futurist, so I'm always going to like have Elon Musk timeframes and make them short. But I do believe that'll be real soon.
No.
And then everyone will read news articles saying that ETH is upgraded, it's better than Visa, and everyone here that holds ETH will be like, "Oh, great! It's just 100x in a day. Nice."
I've got to just take 5-minute break. I'm just going to cheers.
All right, Ben got a bit excited about that. He's going to go buy some ETH. He's going to go buy some ETH.
Yeah, needs to go buy ETH.
I didn't mention this, but it's in NFT world, there's a lot of that. What's the phrase? Good vibes only. That was the vibe, and kind of only positive kind of things. Let's only talk about the positive kind of thing. And it's right that some people be pissed off about it and bring up arguments about the environmental impact and some of these things, because or whether they're scams. I've gone through waves of thinking the whole thing is like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the best thing ever. And then it's like, oh, it's sort of scam. It's just a bunch of people making loads of money. And then kind of swing back around to it going, oh no, there is some good stuff in there. And there's different possibilities. Like, definitely NFTs aren't going away.
NFTs are like the biggest unlock, because if you look at, I've forgotten what the graph is called, and I should know what the chart is, but you basically have like art and fashion on the outside, which is the first users of any new shift. Then you've got commerce. Then you've got the next level. Then you've got government. Like it trickles down, right, to the more archaic situations. So I think like we're all talking about art and fashion right now, like because it obviously always going to be those the first people that move the shift, but we're getting to the point where, you know, the fact that I mean, I love one of the most basic things about NFTs is that if I have an NFT in my wallet and I go on the right website or MetaMask integrates properly and they've built it into the site, it can go, oh yeah, okay, you own that thing, great, I've got you. And then it unlocks something like maybe I can buy loads of stuff that I wouldn't be able to buy if I didn't own it. Or maybe it's, it also takes like peer-to-peer as well. So for example, it's crazy because like you could be at a concert and sold out, and then you could just, your phone could just go off and it'd have an alert and it would say like, Steve wants to give you £1,000 for your ticket right now. Like you can switch. This is an NFT, right? And it has so you leave and or whatever it may be. And like, it's kind of like, it's so interesting. Like, I think it's funny. I genuinely believe there'll be a restaurant in the next 2 years, maybe it'll be way quicker, that you can't go to unless you own the NFT, or like a members club that you physically can't go to. Like the only way to get in is to have the NFT.
Yeah.
And like you scan your phone as you go in or something. Like there's so many use cases for it. We're just talking about the beginnings, and this is how like generally new things start. I think it will, once you really get your head around it. I mean, what I like, a friend of mine, we were in a hotel the other day, lobby, meeting up, and he was like, "Oh, I've bought one of." It was actually MGXS. He was like, "Oh, I've bought one of MGX's pieces. Like, great." And I was like, "Cool." And he got his phone out and he showed me. And there's two things that happened there, which is one, he wouldn't have been able to do that if he'd have bought a Robert Longo, because it would have been a big charcoal painting at his home and I wouldn't have been able to see it. Yeah. And secondly, I knew he wasn't shitting me because he showed it me in his wallet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I know you own that. I know you're not trying to like pretend flex at me.
Yeah.
And I think that's really like, there's so much of a shift in like how we can use NFTs, and art is just the beginning.
Oh, I just wanted to ask this because I'm sure like there will be people listening who probably haven't even heard of an NFT. Do you know what I mean? And so as you were kind of alluding to earlier, like we are in a kind of privileged subsection who understands this stuff, and you know the numbers are very small, but it's kind of when do you think that it's going to become? I mean, I think NFTs are becoming in the mainstream with things like PayPal accepting NFT payments and stuff like that. It is spreading to the mainstream, but with NFTs, I'm kind of wondering. I mean, I've banged on about digital picture frames in the home for so long, but I think that is kind of when I think when people can have an actual practical application for NFTs personally is when it's going to really kind of go to the mainstream. I mean, what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think there's two levels to it, right? I think personally my view is that right now there's the easy level, which is like the club unlock, right? So like if you buy an ape for £1,000,000 billion, then you're unlocking stuff like the. Actually, no, even Kid 8 does it, right? So Kid 8's done it as well now, and that's much cheaper. So, you can get like hoodies and you can get merchandise and stuff that no one else can own. So then it becomes really special to you because you're part of that club and you're unlocking physical items that are really like really exclusive. And also it becomes like community. Like there's a guy was walking around in his ape, apparently hasn't taken his ape hoodie off for like 10 days straight or something. And he said like hardly anyone talks to him about it because no one knows. But two people have come up to him and like been like, oh man, like I own one, like, and it's created like friendships. And then also like he had some banker come up to him and say like, oh my God, you buy JPEGs for money. How stupid are you? Or something like that. And which we all know is completely ridiculous given how much he probably earns that guy's salary in like 3 years, you know. But then the second part of it is Artifact, right? And what they're doing. So the Artifact kind of started off with that unlock of like doing the NFT sneaker, and then it made you could forge the real sneaker, which is really cool. And again, they did really unique ones. So for the CryptoPunks thing, so if you owned a CryptoPunk, you could forge a real sneaker, but it was completely unique to your punk. So it was one of one physical item. And like you're either talking sneaker culture, you're talking fashion, or you're talking art, like either of those three things. But then I think what's interesting, and it's them who are going to move it forwards, is this whole like the avatar thing. The avatar thing is huge now. It makes sense, but Artifact are building that utility in. And it's funny because like people say to me, oh, you know, we need to get these big fashion brands in the metaverse or the NFT space. Like that's what'll onboard people. I'm like, I don't believe that. What I believe is when Artifact, for example, like someone of that caliber releases their avatar project, and then I'm sitting here literally on this like podcast with you, and my video is my avatar and it's moving and talking, because they've got real-time animation built on modeling, and they've shown a teaser of it. So my avatar that I buy, it'll be me. Like I'll be talking, my hands will be moving, and that'll be it. And I think once that starts happening, and everyone in the Fortnite, like millions of people who play Fortnite, millions of people that play Apex of that age group go, hang on a minute, I can be like real me, but on my FaceTime call, on my WhatsApp video call, on my podcast, on my Zoom call, at work, like all of that stuff, especially in a more kind of like a post-COVID world. That to me is what will move it.
So, I mean, it's quite interesting, because basically when I was looking around Twitter earlier, I was thinking like everyone's got these Bored Apes, they've got their CryptoPunk, they've got all these kind of different avatars, which in a way is like making you less individual, because yes, you're now part of a group, but you're doing an avatar that is, you know, it's obviously a lot of people have that kind of similar avatar. So are you saying that basically there'd be a system whereby you customize your own to fit you as well as is possible, and then you will use that across multiple metaverses and such?
I mean, I think, to be honest with you, I think that's what Facebook are trying to do, because they've kind of already got that with Oculus, where they're trying to make it where you make your own avatar and things like that. But I'm not sure. Personally, right now, I actually quite like the club avatar mentality. Like, you're right in the fact that it makes you less individual, but in a way, isn't that kind of what, like, especially what high school was? Because you have your subconscious, right? You have your like,
I hated high school.
You have your, like, yeah, right. But in a way, like a lot of people don't leave that. If you know what I mean, I don't know. It's so you kind of have your groups, right? And I think even now, like when people are older, they kind of identify themselves as something, like as part of like a set. So I think it's interesting. I quite like the club thing. I think it's a cool thing. And I think especially online, it means that people get to meet. I mean, if you're part of one of these, like the bigger clubs like Apes, you know, you instantly are getting like invites to do cool things and things that you wouldn't normally from new people, and you're getting to meet new people. So I think it works. But yeah, maybe eventually we're getting to that point where you are completely unique as an avatar. I mean, that's Ready Player One, right? So yeah.
Well, it's like school all over again. Like, you're giving me anxiety. Like, really. It's like, yeah, you got to be part of the group. You got to have the avatar to be part of that club. Like, I'm not saying, you know, I try to be individual. I'm not saying I am. Do you know what I mean? There's probably some subsect that I'm following, be it, yeah, people who do motion graphics or whatever. But
what do you think of?
Yeah, I mean, that.
Well, I was going to say, what do you think of most of the sort of avatar projects that are going on at the moment? A lot of the profile PFP avatar projects. Generally, the 2D drawings or made art with, you know, some people promise that this is going to be, they're going to be made into 3D models one day, and they're going to be able to be used in it. At the moment, they're just, you know, they're just two-dimensional pictures that we're not going to be able to take to that metaverse or that place or anywhere else, unless you really, really believe in the company and the creators. I guess it's a bit of a fake.
Yeah, but I think that's the key, and that's the point, right? It's so funny. Like, I don't know really who pushed the roadmap thing first, like the roadmap phrase. But I think, like, really, again, I'm obviously quite a big fan of Artifact because I keep talking about them. But like, their roadmap is real, right? You know that, you can see that, you can see they've got the funding, you can see they've got the three of them are incredibly smart. You know that they are 5 steps like chess moves ahead than everybody else, and their roadmap is there. So, you know, they're showing. It's funny because everybody's saying the roadmap of like, oh, it's going to be 3D, oh, we'll have utility, and Artifact to being like, yeah, that's now. We're literally launching it in 2 months, in 2 weeks. Sorry, like it's kind of funny. But then there's other projects. So the project you're like, so I quite liked Mechaverse, for example. I think the artwork was really, really cool. And you can see that they've got that kind of idea built in already. They've got the idea of they're going to do like swords for everyone, and then the idea they want to build it into like the battling. You can see that can be like 3D forwards and everything like that. So I think that's quite cool. But then, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm not going to like diss anyone, but I'm not a fan of Toads. I'm not a fan of Lazy Lions. I'm not a fan of any. I'm like bored of that. I'm not interested. And I think once you get like a Mechaverse and an Artifact Clone X, like they're dead. Like it's not interesting. I mean, like there's a couple of like really much smaller projects of artists, like individual artists that I like that are doing 2D like PFP type stuff. One of them is it's like a little demon high school, and they're like 0.015 each or something. It's like £50 each, and it's like a little demon high school. It's like it's cute 2D drawing, but it's the artist, right? It's one artist sharing their idea and their body work, and I think that's cool. Obviously, I really like the Kid 8 like GVOs. I think that's really cool too, and I think it was done at the right time as well. Like, and the way that like again, he's an artist and he's like building that out. But I'm not a fan of like the big 2D projects. CryptoPunks obviously doesn't count because it's a point in history. It's literally it's like an art. It's always going to be a huge art point in like the history of technology and art. So yeah, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. What do you two think? Where are you? I'm interested.
I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of the metaverse and what you were just saying about GVOs there. Like, I think what GVOs had is that, yeah, they target a certain kind of person who can relate to that artwork, and there are a lot of those people. And I think when these projects go into like the metaverse, you will have a GVOs area, like it's almost like Disneyland, where you go to find the people who you can relate to and the kind of the groups you can relate to, which makes more sense to me. And so I don't know whether avatar projects will always be what they're limited to. Do you know what I mean? I think it would be more about spaces and places you can go, and like you were saying, clubs and things like that, which sounds great. I mean, I'd never not even thought about that. And the fact that you could, have like clubs that you can only go to if you've got one. So yeah, that's my view. But the kind of profile pic side of it seems kind of limited to me at the moment.
It's just because there's also so many of them, and I think a lot of people are, you're gonna run out of profile pictures to use. Which one are you going to be? Are you going to choose your GVO, your Mecha, your Bored Ape, or your Crypt, or your Punk? Probably your Punk because it's the one that's worth the most. But I mean, other than that, in terms of like belonging to too many clubs as well, I think there's because there's more and more of these projects coming out, and then the more that they compete, you're already competing with like a hell of a lot of kind of groups and projects. Like, do you think that the bubble's going to pop in that sense? How many more groups can there exist and can we join? And even like physically, in terms of time, how many Discords can you be on, and channels can you follow, and to actually get the most out of these things? So let's say there is a Bored Ape event, but it clashes with my CryptoPunk event. I can't actually go. I'm like,
I don't know. I mean, I'm interested. I think that personally, you might get a dip, you might get a winter in terms of like avatar projects like that. We can see that happening, but in the long term, like for example, let's just say like I have maybe 5 or 6 fashion brands that I go to, right? So like on the bottom end might do like a Zara or something like that, and like middle end might be like All Saints. Or no, this is just my personal like preference. So. And then, but maybe there's like 5 or 6, right? For sport, I only wear like Nike for some reason, but I do. But surely that's the same. So brands just get replaced with these new brands. So then I have my like CryptoPunk and my Ape, and then I have my Artifact and etc. And then I'm just replacing the old side of it with this new. I don't think there's. And then when you're talking about like clashes, it's like if you had a Bugsy Malone concert, you really like Bugsy Malone, and you really like Ryan Caraveo, and they're both on the same night, you'd choose, right? You'd just be like, well, I fancy this one more. I think as a longer term, like we need to be seeing these as brands. It's weird that I do think that Artifact are the only one that have been like, they're like the brand of the metaverse, right? That's how they classify themselves. Isn't it crazy? There's one, like there should be like 100,000. And then you look at like certain artists, or you start realizing there's one. Like, who's an NFT magazine? Name 2. Can't. Like, it's really interesting, right? And I think there's place for a lot of people in this space, and you're kind of And also, when you're saying about ownership, you'll run out of PFPs. Don't forget that I said at the beginning, 0.006 or whatever it is % of the internet own an NFT, right? Like once you start getting to the levels of internet usage, that's a huge market.
It's true, and they're all going to have to buy new ones because, I mean, all of the old projects are, any new users going to be way priced out. You know, it's like, it's now impossible for the average person to ever own a CryptoPunk or ever own a Bored Ape. So these things are like now just for the super rich, really, or the early adopters who just held for ages at the right time. So, I mean, the other ones are going to have to offer, and people are trying it, and more are coming up with newer ways to offer utility, more exciting ways to kind of have this as part of something, because it's no longer just enough just having that thing, that like picture. It's like CryptoPunks did it, you know, Bored Apes had to do something new. It created a club, an exclusive members club, you know, with events and things like that. And as you said, there's more utility kind of coming from this, which is not a bad thing. It's kind of upping the game, I suppose, and just making kind of new. Well, I guess the competition is just going to create new things kind of like.
And don't you love how fast that's happening as well?
Super fast. It's
but how fantastic is that? I think like if you look at like a traditional world industry, whether it's fashion or manufacturing, and like the speed it moves at is, you know, people have meetings about whether they should change the color of their logo. And we've got a situation where I think we launched our first digital fashion drop in, I can't remember, maybe it was like May or ish. And that was our kind of on the ones for tailored photos where you have your outfit, you buy an outfit from a platform like DressX or whoever, and it gets tailored to your photo by someone who's doing that for you. And then 3-4 months later, that was old. That's like, are you behind? Like, this is not real. Like, because Snapchat released their new digital fashion occluder, full body occluder, and it was working to a decent level, which wasn't happening. Didn't happen in May, and it enabled people to be able to do that. So suddenly, within 4 months, you've gone from static one-time use to real-time AR use. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not fully there because the occluder has to split the legs, so you can't have, like, for example, like a big long trench coat like one of ours, because it's not quite there. But I can imagine like 3 months that'll be there again, and then we'll move to a point where it becomes just more real. And like at the moment, it's still a bit. If you move your arms too quickly, it's a bit, you know. But I can see that happening. And then how long is it until it gets to a point where, as you said, like we have our glasses, and then someone walks past you and is wearing a digital fashion outfit,
yeah.
And then how far off is it until you can have groups where your mates can see you in a Daniel Arsham hoodie, but if your boss walks past you, you're wearing a suit. I think it will move so quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that is like super interesting, and just trying to get my head around that at the moment is like how it's a thing and it's exploding, even though the technology is not quite there. And so when that technology does arrive, and I think it's just a case of like full body tracking. When you can do full body tracking on any video or any camera source, then it becomes a lot more useful than it is now. I think it's still, I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of interested in your take on this, because I think you speak to a lot more people who are into this stuff than me. Like you understand it a lot better than I do. It's like people seem excited about that now, even though the technology is not there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I think people are excited about it, I'll tell you why I'm excited about it right now, is how cool that you can wear something that is like not being able to be made by physics. Like in the real world, I can wear a leather trench coat if I wanted to, and look like Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something. But I can't wear one made out of liquid metal because that's impossible. But I can, because it's right there in digital fashion. And I think like if you start like following all the digital fashion people, and then you start scrolling down your feed, and then you just see normal fashion, it looks so boring because people have got this incredible like glowing armor, or like these kind of like tentacles with spikes coming out of their trench coats and stuff, and then you still like wings and like whatever, and then you just see like a All Saints coat, and you're like, oh, okay, it's made of cotton.
Yeah.
or something, right? So I think that's why people are interested in it now, because it's just really fun, and it's quite a fun, vibrant, like, fashion's about self-expression, right? And it's kind of, it sounds really weird to say, but it's limited in the physical space. You can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally get that now. I think I'm discovering bright colours and stuff now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I'm very restricted in what I wear, and obviously men's fashion is quite limited in terms of, like, obviously you can express yourself through men's fashion, but I think a lot of people are held back by essentially what people would think of you, and when you're in a normal society type position, you definitely hold back. So I mean, I'm finding myself now wearing bright colours because I'm getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of wearing navy blue. And you go to London and you walk down the street and there's not like one person who isn't wearing grey, navy blue or brown, and you go, for God's sake, you know what I mean? And I think so now I'm going down the street in bright pink shoes, and I'm starting to wear like neon jumpers because I'm getting so fed up with it. And so I get it from that point of view. It's like, I think if I was uninhibited and I could almost choose who certain people not to see me wearing that stuff, I reckon I'd probably be full on, you know, wearing like pink dresses and stuff, because it's just so much more interesting. Do you know what I mean? Because I've been wearing other stuff for so long, and I'm someone who likes to, like, new things all the time. It's not necessarily about sexuality or anything like that. It's just about, I want to wear something that I haven't worn before and to feel differently. And I think, yeah, if I could choose who and when and who saw that and whatever, then I would be much more expressive with what I wore.
I'd like to see those outfits, Phil.
Yeah.
Well, think about the environmental impact of all these things. Like, the fashion industry kind of, so it gets a lot of jib for its detrimental impact to the environment. If we didn't have all of these, you just had one set of garms, a couple of sets of garms that you wore that had tracking markers essentially, and that's what you did. And you could change, 10 outfits a day. Would we still, one, that will be much better for the environment in terms of not having to use all these materials, but would you think we would definitely still have the level, just like we have now, in terms of or the exclusivity of being able to, like, buy a designer's dress, or a kind of just a dress that's not a non-designer one, but one costs thousands of pounds, even just the digital version. That is, when it comes down to, when we talk about real dresses, this is where we're going to have like the NFT argument again, where like it's like right click save as, when it becomes a digital item of clothing, and then you're like attaching value to it. You could argue that because it's just light and it's polygons and it's data, it's the same data that's kind of stored, and it's ultimately the same copy is being used to make multiple copies of. So no fabrics are being used, no people, no factories, no resources in terms of some of these materials and stuff. So how do you think that the evaluation of things is going to go? Are we going to see still huge differences in prices between designer dresses and non-designer outfits? Are we going to have much more of a middle ground where this is just going to be open markets to people?
I think it's interesting because there's two sides to it of what's happening at the moment, right? So in the digital fashion world right now, you've got probably three different levels. So you've got like people like us, you've got the brands like Tribute, and people like that who are doing digital fashion. Then you've got, and to put that into context, like what? So our outfits are like, but they're on the photo outfits are like $40 or so, like that ish. And then like Tributes maybe are like 100-ish. Now obviously that's quite expensive for the photo situation. We'll get into that in a second. But then you've got like Artifact, and so when Artifact was selling theirs before it all went crazy, before CloneX, what we're talking about, £1,000 of sneakers. But you got the physical sneakers as well. And how much would you pay for like a pair of Air Jordans or something? So I mean, really, it's kind of similar to Nike level. But then you've got like Ouroboros, who launched recently, who's like digital fashion outfits are $2,000 up. So you've got that. You've kind of got that already. You've got the kind of like normal brands, the kind of the more Nike brands, and then the really like high fashion designers section. I mean, I think the first ever digital fashion dress sold for like 10 grand or something back in the day. Right. But then I think like when you look at it going forwards, though, especially with digital fashion, you have to look at ownership, and it's something that I've been talking about a bit at the moment, which is. At the moment, you get your pick like tailored, like to pay $40 or $50 for your outfit. It gets tailored onto a photo for you. That's it. So really, you're buying a photo, not the outfit, which is totally not. I mean, it's way more sustainable and that's incredible, but it's not good monetarily. So really, you're renting it. That's how I see it. You're kind of renting that garment. If you want to go out and wear it, you've got to rent it. But we need to be in an ownership point of view, and that's where NFTs come in. Because if you look at someone like Artisan.io, who are a digital fashion NFT platform, you get the point where you own the NFT and then you've got the real-time AR filter that you unlock because you own the NFT. You can't do it unless you have the NFT. Or you could have a situation where if you just want the photo system, then you could have like a lifetime of uses or 100 uses of that garment for a certain price. So I think to answer the question, like, yes, you will, like the real world, you'll have designer brands because you'll have people that just want to be a high price brand. Like we've decided we want to be a luxury brand or we just want to be like an accessible brand. I bet you'll even get brands, to be honest with you, in the metaverse, they'll just be free. You'll get free brands. You'll get people that just want to create cool stuff and airdrop them for free, right? So I think there'll be a number of price points, which again plays into, it's interesting because the metaverse will essentially be AR, right? And then AR is just going to be a digital layer on top of reality. So it's just enhancing reality. And then when we start talking about this, it makes sense because all we're saying is like, well, it just shifts to digital. Like you've got Zara, Nike, and like McQueen. You're going to have Zara, Nike, and McQueen. It's just called like Artifact, Tribute, and Ouroboros. Like, it's right. I think that's how it comes about.
Who's going to make the real clothes?
This is what I keep thinking when you're saying that.
Because they're going to make so much money making the digital ones because there's no overheads or a lot less overheads, a lot less costs. Who's going to be actually in the factories making it?
It'd be government issue grey
jumpsuit. I know, right?
Star Trek style grey jumpsuit, and then I mean, this is exactly what we've been talking about in terms of the update and your story that you come up with. It's interesting that it's.
But
it's
I think
sort of
like
happening.
it's a question for Will actually because you were saying about how you feel with fashion earlier, right? And this is a question about the digital fashion, which is, do you feel wearing digital fashion? Like, if you put a big like aviator coat on, you feel a certain leather jacket, you feel a certain way. But you don't feel that way if you put like you have a digital thing. So is there a place for? I feel there is a place for physical fashion still.
I mean, it definitely. I keep coming back to the same thing: is that it comes down to the technology, and if everyone is wearing that all of the time, then it's a very different situation. But if it's just a limited number of people and it's certain situations, certain events that you do that, it's a very different thing that we're talking about. Do you know what I mean? There's an exclusive club. If it becomes so easy that it's contact lenses or just a little thing on the side of your head, and then overnight it becomes something that everyone, provided they can afford it, something everyone would do. Because you would have it on. Like why I'm saying this really is because I do a lot of stuff with VR and I've got a lot of VR headsets and all that kind of stuff. And you only want to wear them for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. I mean, I have been in one for like 8 hours before and it was dreadful. But what I'm saying is it has to get so good that it is just all the time for me to, and then I think that would change the game massively to how I'm viewing it at the moment. I think
VR is interesting though, right? Because I'm a massive fan of VR. I'm a huge fan. But actually, you have to remove yourself from VR because you have to remove yourself from something that isn't reality. So that's another reason why you can't stay in it all the time. But I mean, have you seen like this new VR stuff coming out at the moment? Was it who released it today? There was a new form factor that was released today or yesterday, and we're getting there. Like Panasonic did one like last year, and I feel like even there's some teaser shots from Facebook's new idea, and you're really starting to get down to glasses, even for VR, which is crazy.
I don't think it's that long. Yeah, so there was the Vive. There's like the Vive. There's a new one from HTC Vive, which is like supposed to be meant for relaxation, and they're basically like big glasses. And then I think you have a battery pack. But I think that there's no doubt that the technology will get there. And I saw an article recently about there's another new headset whereby the cameras are so good on the outside that you're essentially seeing the real world. It's essentially AR, but it's a full VR headset. But the cameras are so good that you see through the headset. And then, the guy's talking about how he's like stroking a model of a guy and he's like feeling the sensation. Like his brain is so tricked into thinking that it's real that he starts to feel the like sensation on his hand and stuff. And so I think, that's today. So, currently that headset is like 10, 12 grand. But it is going to get there. I'm convinced that it is going to get there. I'm just not convinced that until that happens, a lot of people are going to get into it. I think it's going to be niche until that happens, where everyone has it.
I still think it's going to be like in that 5-year time frame, though. Like if you like you're just talking about, it's really interesting. You've got there's a haptic company that have managed to do haptics through thin air. Crazy. They have basically like a pad. It's mad, right? They have like a pad that I've never used it, so I don't actually know the technology behind it, and they probably keep it secret. But it's essentially a pad that's on the floor, and you go to touch something, and when you touch it in thin air, it feels like you're touching something or holding it, because they're basically putting air pressure against the tips of your fingers or the grip. So that doesn't involve any gloves, any suit, nothing. It's all just through like the ether. It's crazy. And then when you start to get into that idea, have you ever been to a place called Otherworld? It's basically I don't want to call it a VR arcade because it's a bit harsh for them because they're much more advanced than that. But they've got this island. You basically go to one of their locations. They have all these pods, and you go into one of their pods, and they've got this island which they built themselves. And then you can go around and play games and stuff. It's really cool. But in these pods, they've got fans, they've got heat, like lights, they've got like all sorts of like trickery, basically. And you're in comms with whoever you're playing with, and you kind of start in this tunnel in their mountain of this island, and you come out, and then they put the fans and the heat on. But because you're in VR, it just feels crazy real. Like VR is like good enough as it is, let alone when you start adding things like that. And you've seen the things where people do what's the plank game called that you kind of play when you're a beginner when you start. But people with the fans, and they put a plank on like the floor, and then they put fans on you, and it feels it really starts to trick your brain. And the thing that I've always thought is that you don't need, like people talk about, especially when you talk about like simulation theory, about like, in a simulation and all that kind of thing, people say, you'd have to replicate the whole universe. It's impossible. So no, you just need to trick the brain. Like when you're dreaming, you feel it's real. There's a giant ant with a top hat, and you're running away from it because you think it's real. There's no giant ants with top hats. It's crazy. But all you have to do is trick the brain. Like I think that there's just a tiny touch of whether it's touch feed, like haptics, or whether there's just some like cold, hot, like type of feedback, and I think you've done it.
I've seen a lot of things supporting that. I saw someone saying that, the pads that you walk on and you put slippery shoes on and you walk on them and you walk in the VR. And they were basically saying once they got fully into that and accepted that as their means of transport, then, they'd see an enemy and they were literally like running away, like full pelt, like so it was real because they were crapping themselves. Do you know what I mean? And I think you're right. It's that we're very close to that point where it's the tricking the brain. And then you will be in there. So,
I was going to come up, sort of lead on to like a little roundup bit, and I was going to ask you, what about, we've been talking about a lot of the stuff in the future. Anything, what's happening more directly in your future in Cyber Magazine? What kind of like exciting that you can talk about? Exciting advancements.
It's quite difficult because there's actually a lot I can't. But yeah, I mean, the initial thing is really easy. Is that our next issue is coming out very soon, which is Earth 2070, which is actually all about like the climate change and how it seems crazy to us that we've just had this crazy pandemic, and the second act is coming. It's climate change, and everyone's sitting around talking about it. I think we kind of should be treating it more like COVID and in a kind of emergency way. A lot of what we've talked about today is helping that in a good way. But so that's the next project. But then we've got quite a lot of things going on. I mean, we are actually completely redoing our NFT magazines. And we're kind of creating something new out of that, and it's to make sure that it's interesting. Again, it's been what we talked about. It's adding utility. So we've already got that utility because it's 3D and we've got every single page, but we're like trying to think about how it may be used in metaverses or Decentraland or places like that. So I can't say exactly what we're doing, but it's really cool, and I'm quite excited about how we're bridging that out. And then yeah, there's a few things I can't, but like we may have started out as a magazine, but I'm very, very bullish on everything we've been talking about today. So we're going to become, the magazine's going to become part of our business as such, and we're very excited just to build really fun. That's why we've done digital fashion. It's why we're going to be doing metaverse things in proper metaverses and building stuff there. It's such an exciting space, and I feel so privileged to be at the beginning of it. And kind of being able to stand with like giants and be part of building this new space.
So Cyber Magazine's a great place for people to go if they're interested in any of this stuff, right? So where would you send people as a point of contact?
Well, I think do you know what? Actually, our Discord is probably one of the most interesting places, which is just / Cybercorp without the E, so CYBR Corp. But also like obviously our website's a good place to go, like grab an issue and start reading through and having a look. But yeah, for now, those two are best, I think.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been really nice to talk to you.
No, thank you so much. Like, it was an absolute pleasure to be on and talk to you guys. Like, thank you so much for having me here.
Excellent. Nice one, man. Thank you for coming on the show. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. We're going to wrap it up. You've been listening to OG Creators Podcast. I've been your co-host, Vicky, and it's my mate, Will. Say goodbye, Will.
Goodbye.
Bye.